Hello everybody and welcome back to Middle-earth. This is Count MRVHS with another video update for Wainriders, the sub-mod for 4th Age Total War that takes the action back into the 3rd Age. The 3rd Age saw the invasion of the Wainriders in the east, but the faction we are looking at today is about as far away from that as you can imagine. These are the Black Forest tribes settled in and around the Eryn Vorn, or the Blackwood, with also some contingents from the coastal regions to the south, Minhiriath and Enedwaith. So this is going to be a very interesting faction. Now, we took a lot of cues in developing this faction from the Halidin, or the people of Haleth. There's not a lot known about the people who dwelt in the Blackwood or Enedwaith or Minhiriath in Middle-earth. But we do know a bit more about the Halidin from Balerion, so it seemed reasonable to suppose that these people would be somewhat akin. And so that's the direction we've taken in terms of design here. Now, Web84, again, is responsible for these units and models, and very fantastic, understated, rough woodsman-type look for this faction. So one of my favorite things about a faction unit roster is some interesting limitations and some interesting quirks, and this faction absolutely has both of those things. So here we see some woodman foresters. They are moving up to the ford where they are going to contest the crossing of this army of Gondor. Now, these are, I think, a tier 2 archer unit. There's only 3 military tiers available for the Black Forest tribes, so on the one hand that can be kind of an advantage. But these guys will be useful, of course, for taking out enemy archers and other unarmored troops. They're not going to make much of a dent against the heavily armored infantry of Gondor. For that, we will have a bit more success with these coastal hunters, especially if they can maneuver around behind or into the flanks and throw these javelins into the enemy. Of course, in melee, they're not going to be very effective. No shield, no helmet, very little protection for these guys, so they're going to have to skirmish away from trouble. Further back, we have the bodyguard unit. This is the Chieftain's Guard. I always like an infantry bodyguard. Kind of an interesting choice here. So these guys have spears, shields, and javelins as well. They're going to be among the most resilient of the units available to the Black Forest tribes. So this might be a case where you want to have a couple of bodyguard units in your army just for that resiliency. Also, I just love this touch of why use a banner when you can have an orc on a stick, right? So very, very intimidating look here. I like it a lot. Right next to them, we have the Long Spearmen. I brought a couple of units of these guys. They seem to be better in very specific matchups. So you can see they have long spears as well as shields, but not a lot of armor. They're going to be very effective against cavalry, as you would expect, and they're going to murder the light cav that we're going to come across in this fight. But otherwise, they're not going to hold out particularly well against this super elite heavy infantry, and you definitely want to keep them away from ranged. Further down the line, a bit more resilient, this unit of Shield Sisters. So again, taking cues from the Halidin, we imagine that there might be some tradition among these people of having female warriors. So this is going to be a bit of a rarer unit for the Black Forest tribes, but an interesting addition. They're going to be fairly well armored, as you can see, and with decent morale. This is going to be a unit that you can use to anchor the lines like I have used here. Next to them, and on both wings, I've got a unit of Coastal Raiders. These are kind of like your basic lower tier melee troops. So they're going to be useful for multiple purposes, but don't expect miracles from these guys. Where you do want to expect great things is from these Blackwood Warriors. So two-handed axes, decent protection, but really the advantage here is hacking down guys in armor. And to help them with that, they can even war cry. So this is a unit, like a lot of your forces, which you're going to have to micromanage a bit. I've brought 6 into this fight, and so a lot of my experience in this battle was running them back and forth, dealing with the heavily armored soldiers of Gondor, and then resting them a bit, war crying again, charging them into a new unit, and that eventually worked. It actually took me several tries before I won this fight. We also have a unit of War Dogs. So this is your fear-causing unit. It'll be useful to have a unit of these, I would say, in all of your armies. Another thing that you'll notice is this is the only animal unit you have. There are no cavalry available to the Black Forest tribe. So if you want to run something down, get dogs, basically, or expect a long foot race. Here, though, we have another interesting and unique unit for the faction, Drew Wardens. Another nod to the Haladin influence or the similarity there of the culture. These are Druidine who have lived alongside or with the Black Forest tribe, so we imagine it might be fun to give them a unit here. They're very effective at range, with their javelins being effective against armor, and they're surprisingly resilient in melee as well. And the other thing you'll notice is that we're fighting here in the woods, which is by design. A lot of times when you're fighting a ford or a river bridge battle, you want to rush to the choke point and stop the enemy from advancing. That's not really going to work with the Black Forest tribes. You need room to charge your axes in and around, and a lot of your units are going to get bonuses in the forest. So we are trying to take advantage of that. I've even run my skirmishers in to help me put pressure on the Spearmen of Gondor. They're actually wavering, and they're going to be routing pretty soon, along with even these men-at-arms, in one of the most elite units available to Gondor. But in the trees here, we're hacking them down fairly well with our axes. Over in the center, we're under a lot of pressure, actually. Even these lower-tier units of Gondor are going to take us a while to get through, and their cavalry is going to be a problem. If we can't get our long spears at them, we're just going to have to suffer a bit. So part of your fight involves using all of the units that are available to you, and I've had to throw in my coastal hunters to help me out with this. Otherwise, my Chieftain's Guard are holding out fairly well. You can see the orc banner waving here, and we are still holding fast. On our left, the Shield Sisters are holding out against the Knights of Gondor, so this is Gondor's bodyguard unit. And you're, again, going to need to bring your Blackwood warriors, so warcry them and rush them in. We're doing fairly well here, but the killing blow is about to come in a second when we have this other unit that we managed to free up from the fight in the center. Warcry them and charge them in, and that's going to fairly quickly put the pressure on and actually turn the course of the battle. So a lot of micromanaging. There goes the general. A lot of making sure you know where your units are and how to throw them in. So this makes for a very active play style. With some factions, you can just set up a line of archers and just kind of watch the battle unfold before you with maybe a little hammer and anvil. But you're going to need a lot of little anvils and a lot of hammers when you're playing as the Black Forest tribes. And I think, in a lot of ways, that will make the victories that you do win even that much more rewarding. I do want to say that the stats and performance of these units are subject to changing and testing. Of course, we're in the very early stages of development, but so far I think this plays out fairly well. This is a 20 stack versus Gondor's 20 stack, and that is not something that you're going to want to undertake lightly. And it took me, as I said, several attempts before I could actually figure out the winning strategy for this battle. And I think that's fair. Again, if you're fighting Gondor, you're fighting some of the most elite, disciplined, well-trained, well-armed men in Middle-earth. And if you can pull off a victory with these guys who are maybe fierce and wild, but certainly not disciplined and certainly not well-armed, then you're going to feel pretty cool. So I'm really looking forward to seeing these guys in the campaign. Now, for more updates on the progression of the submod, be sure to follow the channel here, and definitely take a look at the Total War Center forums, which I'm going to link below. From there, you can also find a link to our Discord channel, where we talk about 4th Age stuff as well as Wainrider's development. So, thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I hope you will join me in the next one. Have a great day.